Chris Pleasant never wanted to talk about his near-death experience on the Deepwater Horizon oil rig.
My wife didn't know actually what happened on the Deepwater Horizon, what we went through.
But now Pleasant is talking to us about the rig explosion in 2010 that killed 11 of his crewmates and led to the worst oil spill in U.S. history. He's talking because he almost had another deepwater disaster 10 years later. On October 28, 2020, he was still working for rig owner Transocean, this time on the Deepwater Asgard drill ship. The Asgard was floating over a well it had just drilled into the seabed. It was connected to the well through a mile-long riser pipe when it got slammed with a direct hit from Hurricane Zeta.
And it was like walking on a floor that's sideways, You was rocking, rolling, heaving, in all different kinds of ways.
100-mile-per-hour winds and 30-foot seas were blowing the Asgard off location. The riser pipe was bending dangerously. The captain ordered Pleasant to hit an emergency disconnect button to unlatch the riser pipe from the well.
I was praying that it worked, because on the Deepwater Horizon, when I hit the button, it didn't work.
This time, it did work. Thanks to Pleasant, the Asgard wasn't stuck to an oil well anymore, but it wasn't out of danger. Now it was dragging the mile-long riser pipe in the churning seas, and it had an enormous, heavy piece of equipment dangling off the end of it called the LMRP. The storm pushed them into shallower waters, and the LMRP kept slamming into the seabed, and that caused the top end of the pipe to ram repeatedly against the ship's hull. Pleasant says he was in the bottom of the ship, watching in horror, helpless to stop it.
The biggest fear as it was hitting the hull of the ship was that we was going to put a hole in the hull and take on water. If we took on water, we would have sunk.
Pleasant is now suing Transocean and the well owners, claiming their decision to stay latched to the well during Hurricane Zeta caused him pain and suffering and lost work to the tune of more than $1 million.
The plan was to disconnect from the well. The captain wanted to disconnect, but he was ordered by his superiors in town to stay latched up.
Now, how do you know that?
I was in the meetings. I was one of the 4 top supervisors to be privileged to the meetings, what they're saying in town.
Pleasant secretly recorded audio of those meetings. Managers on shore say they want to stay latched to the well to protect the expensive drilling equipment and to get back to drilling quicker once the storm is over.
Staying latched up is the best course of action and the minimal amount of risk as far as damage to any equipment and longer times, operational times, getting back to drilling out.
The goal is to ride this thing out and not have to push the big button. We don't want to do that.
Transocean officials testified in sworn depositions that they originally planned to unlatch, lift the LMRP, and leave the area. But they looked at the storm forecasted conditions and didn't have time to pull the LMRP. But in his deposition, Captain Rick Smith said the bosses never planned to leave the area or lift the LMRP. Pleasant is still employed by Transocean while the lawsuit is pending, but he said he probably won't be able to get another job in the oil field.
They all friends in Houston, so, they'll put your name out there like a airline, no-fly list. They know who you are.
And he says he's at peace with that.
I don't want anybody else to go through what I've been through on the Deepwater Horizon and the Deepwater Asgard because of profits.
A Transocean spokesperson declined to comment on Pleasant's specific allegations, but said the facts of this case will demonstrate the company's commitment to the safety of its employees. Now, tomorrow night, we'll tell you about another scary near miss on a Gulf oil rig last hurricane season, and how a new government effort aims to make this hurricane season safer for the people working offshore.